Well, if it's all about the money, that applies locally as well here. And political analyst John Dadian joins us here this morning talking about the political disclosure forms, the financial disclosure forms that have just been released for mayoral candidates here in San Diego. What jumps out at you?
That they're still raising big money. The first reports, they all did very, very well, much more than we thought they were going to do. So we thought maybe that was a low-lying fruit that they picked off. This shows that they have not hit their glass ceilings yet. And, you know, they're getting close to $1 million in these campaigns. And this is just the primary.
Just the primary,
just
running
the primary.
for mayor. So, again, Carl DeMaio came out in terms of who has raised the most money, although he put, what, $350,000 of his own money into that campaign. Well, where does he stand if he doesn't put that money in?
Well, that is the difference in candidate, that he does look like the only one that has that ability. So Nathan Fletcher has raised more per outside donations, but here's the big difference. It still counts because Carl DeMaio is putting in the campaign. He's not doing it as a loan, so that money is the same as contribution.
That's gone?
Absolutely, absolutely. Now,
okay.
Here's what you want to look for in these reports. Obviously, the total amount of money is very important, but you want to look at cash on hand. Because if they raise a lot of money and have spent it and they haven't moved up in the polls, that tells you you're in trouble. Most of these candidates, Mr. DeMaio, Mr. Fletcher, have not spent it yet. So they're sitting on a larger cash and they're ready to go in the next couple of months.
The one that kind of surprised me as I looked at it was the gentleman we're looking at right here, or were there for a moment, Bob Filner, high-profile politician here in San Diego, a congressman. He hasn't raised a bunch of money, and for that matter, we haven't really seen him out and about campaigning all that much. Is that our imagination, or is he out there?
No, it's not your imagination at all. The conventional wisdom several months ago, which people, including myself, are starting to maybe reevaluate, is that he was going to get in the runoff because he's the only Democrat. There's a couple other reasons. Labor's going to be behind him. So keep in mind, this almost certainly is going to be a runoff, so you just want to be able to still be alive after June. But now we're thinking that perhaps he's taken too much for granted. I come from the old school. This is the 8th largest city. This is big-time politics. We just don't realize that because we're here in San Diego.
Kind of laid back here in San Diego, and we kind of have that reputation, and we kind of think that about ourselves. But, like you point out, size-wise and budget-wise, we're big-time.
Nothing is on a silver platter when you're running for mayor of the 8th largest city. And I would point to the 4 top-tier candidates. They're all credible. They're all big names. They're all established, politicians. They're all great campaigners. All 4 of them are very good campaigners. So I think this is going to be a slugfest.
Is there a front runner at this point, or is it just silly to ask that question this early on?
Well, it's not silly to ask because some people say there's a front runner, and I disagree. I think it's going to be a 4-way bunch. And again, I would stress what I said previously, is that they haven't started spending their money yet. Here's what happens when you have a large war chest. When you spend your money, if you spend it correctly, you go up in the polls and your opponents go down. However, having said that, your opponents are doing the same thing. So once that process starts, which really has not realistically started yet, that's when we're really going to see if it shifts. Some people predict that by June it will break a little bit with maybe top 2. I think it's going to be a 4-way slugfest.
Now, when you see the amount of money that's there available to be spent, where does most of that get spent? Is it television, radio, print? Is it, campaign workers? I mean, how does that money get disseminated?
And that's exactly where the strategy comes in. And again, all 4 of the top-tier candidates have 4 of the best political consultants in town. TV clearly is the most expensive, without a doubt, and this is a major media market, so clearly they will be on TV. I always personally like direct mail because you can target it. You know who you're going to.
We like TV.
I know you do.
Yeah.
But what you can do with direct mail is high propensity from a certain party, and you can break it down very specific. But clearly you have to go on TV in a market this big, without a doubt. Keep in mind, a lot of other things. Money goes to, answer your question directly, money goes to polling. That can be expensive, but you need to know where you stand on that type of thing.
Need to know if your message is resonating.
And the general volunteers, they love what we call collateral materials. They love bumper stickers. Really doesn't get your votes, but unfortunately you have to do it.
And I want to go back to Mr. Filner here for just a second, because, as you say, he's the only Democrat really in the race here. It's a nonpartisan office. I mean, we're not going to get a Democrat versus a Republican per ballot rules. I mean, it may turn out that way, but it'll be, it doesn't have to. Does the party, what part does the party play in that, then? Is it just Democrats know Bob Filner and they know his politics, and so they would tend to vote for him, or would anybody really vote for him just because he's a Democrat? Or vice versa?
Yeah, the party designation does not appear on the ballot because it is a nonpartisan race. So on one hand, you think that obfuscates that. On the other hand, though, we have 3 Republicans in it. They would all like the county party endorsement. I don't think the party's going to endorse because there's extra rules when it's a contested primary. But the point is, if they were to be endorsed by the party, there's a little, not necessarily loophole, but there's a rule that's called member communications, that if you're formally endorsed by your party, they can send out to their party members saying this is our person, et cetera, and that helps tremendously.
Ah, okay. So party affiliation could really play a part.
Well, absolutely. And
Good.
if it is Filner versus one of these three Republicans, again, in the general, it won't be designated on the ballot, but realistically, it will be a partisan one because a lot of Republicans will be lining up. A lot of Republicans don't like Bob, and a lot of Democrats don't like any of the three Republicans.
All right. Political analyst John Dadian. Always good to see you.
Good to see
Thanks
you.
for clearing some of those things up for us, and we'll have you back and follow the race.
Very good.
See you soon.